My name is Brett Schaffner. I work with Spatial, and today we'll be talking with Zane Tronson of the City of Greater Bendigo about their experience with ACDC. So welcome, Zane. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself, your organization, and your role within your organization?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brett. Yes, so I work for, as Brett said, I work for the City of Greater Bendigo, which is located in central Victoria in southeastern Australia. And we are a regional council of about 3,000 square kilometres. We're kind of the third largest regional city council. And we're on the Dja Dja Wurrung land and Tungarang country for First Nations. And our population's around about kind of 120,000, something like that, and growing. We certainly are growing as a city, mixture of city and regional properties. And in terms of development, we process around about 100 subdivisions per year and about 50 capital works projects, large capital works projects that require as constructed data to be delivered. Obviously, the city delivers a number more capital works projects. And so I work within the GIS and assets department, which is kind of under the umbrella of engineering. And we are responsible for maintaining the asset management system, all spatial data, the corporate GIS. We're responsible for asset revaluations, mobile computing, spatial solution, all spatial analysis for the organisation, and maps. So a lot of responsibilities, focusing today obviously on the assets perspective and as constructed data.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So we'll kind of jump into a few different questions. So one of the first ones was, how was your workflow before deploying ACDC, and how does that compare to your workflow now?
Yes, so our workflow before implementing the ACDC solution was quite significantly different than post implementation of ACDC. Prior to implementing ACDC, we received as constructed data in many different forms. So we would receive data in a PDF, emailed to us in AutoCAD drawings, or sometimes just scribbled on pieces of paper. So various forms we're receiving as constructed data. There would be a position such as myself in the GIS and assets team that would take those various inputs and essentially geo-reference them into a GIS package, desktop package, and digitize. So undertake the manual digitization from those various inputs, digitize those onto GIS map using aerial photography and parcel boundaries, or potentially the digital inputs such as the PDF plans, and then go through the painstaking task of manually attributing all of those assets that were manually digitized, and then obviously process them, import them into the asset management system. So quite a tedious process, a process of duplication in work, and very inefficient, to be honest. So post implementation of the ACDC solution, we set up a project in the ACDC portal to receive an as constructed submission. We monitor the portal for submissions, and we get an automated notification when we've received a validated submission. We then download that beautiful DWG file that is fully drawn, survey accurate, fully attributed is the big key there too. We have a look at it, make sure it looks acceptable and agrees with any other as constructed plans we may have received. We then either accept that drawing or reject it and ask for revisions. And once accepted, we then process all that asset data into the ACDC staging database using ACDC desktop in AutoCAD, and then we import that into our asset management system. So a significant change in process post implementation of ACDC, going from manual digitizing into an automated digital workflow. Before deploying ACDC, it was a process of manual digitizing assets off plans, PDFs, and then importing those into our asset management system. And post-implementation of ACDC, the data remains digital and it is reviewed using ACDC desktop and imported into the asset management system.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Let's jump into the next one. So, how did you become aware of the ACDC solution? What factors influenced your decision to choose it for your digital transformation journey?
Yeah, we first became aware of the ACDC solution through hearing about the A-spec standards, so the asset specification standards in Australia. So a set of asset standards for delivering certain attributes against certain asset classes. And through those A-spec standards, we heard of the ACDC solution, and it just made sense to keep information in a digital format. So all of our developers and our capital works project managers, design engineers, already having all that asset information in a digital format, usually in AutoCAD or similar, and then simply converting that into a standard to submit just was far more efficient, so there was no manual re-digitizing. It was really about the duplication of work that made the ACDC solution so attractive, understanding that there were huge efficiency gains available to us. Also that the assets would be attributed and the information on all the different assets delivered via the ACDC solution would be in accordance with the ASPEC standards. So standard data, standard attribute information, and we just realized that we could be doing something a lot smarter with our time than manually digitizing plans that had already come out of a AutoCAD drawing. So we were quite interested early on.
How did the implementation process go for your organization, and were there any obstacles or learnings that you would like to share?
The ACDC implementation for our organization went remarkably well. Let me just say, I would say there was significant technical support, excellent technical support provided by Open Spatial in order to implement the solution effectively. Also, Open Spatial working with the ASPEC standards organization and being very involved in those organizations and the general developer community. So excellent support provided by Open Spatial to implement the solution. Were there any obstacles or learnings? Yes, there certainly were along the way. Probably the first thing that we focused on was understanding all those asset specifications, the ASPEC standards, and all the different data classes. Getting your head around those standards was, an important part of the process, and it took some time. And also with myself as a non-native AutoCAD user, I've had some exposure to AutoCAD, but it was a learning curve for me to become familiar and comfortable with a lot of the commands in AutoCAD and the use of blocks and some of those templates. Also, one of the biggest learnings as part of the ACDC implementation was the importance of communication, both internally within your organization and then the effective communication with your developer community, those people that will be submitting, those organizations that will be submitting as constructed data.
Jumping on to next question. So that will be, how has the ACDC solution impacted the efficiency and accuracy of your as constructed asset data management process? And I know you've spoken a little bit to that, but if you want to kind of expand there.
Absolutely, yeah. So the efficiency of the ACDC solution in comparison to the previous workflow, the manual workflow. So as I mentioned, all manual digitizing and processing prior to the ACDC solution. And we actually employed a single full-time equivalent staff member to import all of our as constructed assets. So that's 36, 38 hours a week, full-time equivalent working on importing data. So since we've implemented ACDC, and obviously there's a significant investment in the implementation, in terms of time and setting up all the systems. But once it's set up under the ACDC process, we are now dedicating 1 to 2 hours per week instead of 36 to 38 hours. So the efficiency gains there in terms of staff resources is astronomical, really. And that's what we identified early on when we saw the ACDC solution. So we've moved from one full-time equivalent to 1 to 2 hours per week, and that time is focused on reviewing drawings and ACDC submissions, importing those assets, administering the system, and correspondence to our developer community. In terms of the ACDC solution impacting the accuracy of our as constructed data, so obviously now through ACDC, we're getting essentially survey accurate spatial accuracy on our asset data instead of relying on that manual digitizing to an aerial photo, which we don't know the extents or maybe plus or minus a couple of meters. Now we're getting survey accurate asset data. And also the attribution of the asset information is now standardized in accordance with ASPEC standards. So all assets delivered have a minimum set of attributes that we know have passed the ACDC validation, whereas in the past it was all what we could glean off the plans or maybe calling up a project manager to get information on particular assets where it wasn't clear. Now it's all provided as part of the as constructed drawing delivered via the ACDC portal.
Awesome. So definite time savings and increasing accuracy there. Perfect. Let's see. Next question. What were the most significant benefits your organization experienced after implementing the ACDC solution?
So the most significant benefits for our organisation after implementing ACDC, there is the obvious benefit of the efficiency gains. We're talking about one full-time staff member transformed to instead only requiring someone 1 to 2 hours a week to work on as constructed submissions. So that's the most obvious efficiency gain and benefit. But something that we didn't realise would be so beneficial is the single point of submissions via the ACDC portal. We thought, oh, we'll be receiving as constructed drawings via email in a DWG, and oh, that's really good, and we'll be able to process that through ACDC. But with the ACDC portal, it's a self-serve for our developer community. And we have external developers for all our gifted assets. We have our internal, we call them developers, but they're design engineers and project managers delivering through the single portal, the ACDC portal. And we save a huge amount of time and headache as well by having developers run their own drawing validations and submit those projects online rather than emailing files or project managers putting bits of paper on desks and things like that. So through the portal, we can easily keep track of projects and monitor developers' submissions and their progress. And we can provide resources to assist them through the ACDC portal as well. There's a great sort of downloads area where we provide help guides and templates, and the ACDC portal was really quite surprising in terms of the benefit to the organization.
Oh, that's great to hear. Awesome. Let's jump into the next one. I think kind of going to flow out of your last response. How has the ACDC solution helped your organization streamline workflows, data sources, data standards, plan check procedures, and acceptance procedures?
So the ACDC solution has helped us streamline workflows and plan check procedures, data standards. So through that single source of truth, the ACDC portal for submissions, that instead of receiving multiple inputs, now it's all through the one portal. We can monitor all of our projects from the one platform. We now have a fully documented procedural workflow, rather than being reliant on a single staff member and random emails and bits of information. You have the process fully documented so that it's transferable to any different staff members across the organisation. In terms of streamlining our data standards, we now have consistency across our asset data with all ASCONs now set to the same standard, the ASPEC standard, with the same attributes. So all assets coming in through the ACDC portal and validation process have to have our predefined set of codes or attributes populated. And so we've really raised the bar in terms of our data standardization and the amount of information we're getting. Also, the workflow for acceptance and plan checks has been transformed by running it through the ACDC portal, where when a project is accepted, there is a formal acceptance procedure with an automated notification out to the developer, rather than relying on someone to remember to send an email and attach something or CC somebody. Instead, all through the portal, as soon as you accept a project validation, the formal acceptance procedure is automated, and everyone who needs to be notified is automatically notified.
Perfect, thanks. Jumping on to the next question, can you go ahead and share any specific examples or success stories where ACDC has made a significant positive impact on your organization's operations?
So a specific example of a success story where ACDC has made a positive impact, the biggest one for us, the thrill that we get every time we import a project, import an as constructed drawing, we see it in our GIS, and the biggest thing is we get to see it there. We get to see hundreds of assets delivered from the developer, validated. We see them in our GIS, we hit a couple of buttons, we go through the ACDC process, and literally within 5 minutes now, we get hundreds of assets from ACDC imported into our asset management system. So just the thrill of seeing that, let alone the organizational efficiencies, it just means that we are making good use of our time. We're working smart. Also, another positive impact that it's made is that there's now an even playing field for all of our developers and project managers, design engineers who are submitting as constructed data. With the new solution, everyone knows that they're going to be held to account for providing as constructed data, whereas in the past we had some good developers, good project managers who would deliver as constructed information when it was required. But now everyone's held to account, and there's an organizational appreciation that delivering the as constructed information is part of the project. It's not, the project isn't finished once the assets are built. The delivery of the as constructed information is recognized and respected a little bit more.
Jumping into the next one then, what advice would you give to other organizations considering the ACDC solution for their own digital transformation journey?
So when it comes to advice for another organization considering the ACDC solution and also our learnings, firstly, I would consider about planning of the project and to ensure that it's going to be adequately resourced to implement the project properly. It's a considerable digital transformation project. It's a change of process. It's not just a software installation. So don't underestimate the investment required to effectively implement the ACDC solution and have it fully integrated. Also consider the cost of this initial implementation in terms of resourcing hours and the ongoing licensing fees. Also, another piece of advice that I'd give is to start small and start simple. Master the process, the change of process for perhaps a couple of different asset classes, rather than trying to receive every piece of as constructed information across every asset class via ACDC to begin with. I would start with your major asset classes. So the City of Greater Bendigo started with our RSpec, our road assets, and our stormwater drainage assets. because we saw them as something around 80% of our asset value for the organisation. They were our most important assets to receive, to ensure that they were there ready for, road inspections according to the road management plan. So we started small. We focused on those asset classes to begin with, and we have plans to roll it out to other asset classes, of course, the open space asset class and buildings. But start small, nail the process, and then you can always build on that. Also, other advice for organisations would be to communicate early and communicate effectively, of course. So get an internal understanding and commitment. So within your internal organisation, ensure that you've got managers on board, maybe even directors perhaps, so that they understand what this solution is going to provide, and get commitment from within the organization before starting the implementation. Then ensure that you communicate effectively with your developer community. So give them a heads up. We gave them, in our instance, we gave them something like 3 or 4 months, letting them know that we would be changing process over to delivery of as constructed via the ACDC portal. And finally, final piece of advice is to ensure you have some sort of stick or something that you can whack developers with to hold them accountable for delivering everything via the ACDC portal in a timely manner. So in our situation, we had excellent relationships with our developer community and our internal project managers, and that has served us very well. But I still would recommend having some sort of stick. So an example of that might be a bond for external developers to ensure that they provide the as constructed data, or have it as part of your planning permit process before permits get approved or statement of compliance gets issued. And also, as part of that, is to get the full benefits out of the ACDC solution, you need to be able to rely on those developers delivering the information.
So this one kind of opens it up a bit. So other than ACDC, what additional factors, tools, other solutions were helpful for your organization as you updated your digital transformation process?
Other additional tools and solutions that were helpful as part of this process change was clarity of our workflow and documentation of our workflow, project tracking and reporting, thanks to information that we can pull out of the ACDC portal. We run some nice reports on this information and get to monitor performance and progress of different projects.
So Zane, you've been fairly active in the cohesion workshops that we've been coordinating in your region. How important are those to you, and what difference does it make within the different organizations participating?
Yeah, the council cohesion workshops run by ACDC, or Open Spatial, sorry, have been excellent, especially in the early stages of implementation, have been excellent for seeing how different organizations have implemented the solution, issues that they're having, whether it be technical issues or with developers, and just see the shape that ACDC solution has taken in their organization. It's been excellent to get new ideas, to points of reference and support. So we've obviously documented a lot of our processes and user guides. We've brought on a lot of developers, and we really enjoy sharing that knowledge and that learning of the process that we've been involved in.
Last one, just kind of more open. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
So we're interested in the additional functionality that the ACDC portal provides that we haven't fully leveraged yet. So things like the notification sets, we've got some basic things set up in there for different stages of validation and acceptance of projects, but we're interested in building that capacity or working a little bit more with that. Also, document sets. There's a lot of functionality in the ACDC portal that we haven't yet fully utilized. Played around with it a bit, and it's really promising. Finally, I'd like to share that We have been very impressed with the support provided by Open Spatial, the continued support. So even post-implementation, I know that I can make contact with the team pretty much over anything to do with ACDC, and we get a response really quickly in all different forms, emails and online portals, online meetings. So we'd just like to emphasize how important that is and how much we value that, and attribute the support that Open Spatial provide to how successfully the project has been implemented.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. And thanks again for taking the time to answer some of our questions. We definitely appreciate it.